Good evening, my dear tutor. Tonight I would like to present the the activity that you assigned us in order to explain some techniques to teach pronunciation of words, consonant, vowels, word stress, intonation, rhythm, and also uh, based on an integrated type class. Okay, so first of all, I would like to explain about some English vowels. So why is it important to teach English vowels in an EFL class? It is important to teach vowels because for us, for Spanish speakers, some vowel reductions we don't have the vowel reductions, and in English we have some long vowels, short vowels, and this phenomenon about the vowel reduction is considered important to know in order to actually speak even better, to be able to transmit the proper message when we're talking. So. Um, According to according to Nesterenko in our guide, we found that there are five vowels, and they correspond to 20 phonemes in spoken English language, and therefore they greatly differ or significantly make or are different from Spanish vowel sound system. Okay, for instance, there are three basic and important rules. If two vowels walk together, the first one talks and the second one walks. It means it remains silent. For instance, we have the word seed. The A is not pronounced as a long vowel. It is just silent. We pronounce only seed. The second example I have is boat and fuel, and they remain the same way. And we have another basic rule also that is called when there is a silent E at the end of the word. This is like this. The first vowel is long and the last E is silent, so we don't pronounce it. For example, it goes lane, take, and rise. Okay? So here we can use an example that I found also in the didactic guide, which is bit and bite. The pronunciation changes is a long vowel. It's not a short vowel. And that is how we understand this basic rule for vowels. But there is a contrasting sound rule that uses minimal pairs, and we have examples like seat, set, meet, and met. Okay. Now the exercises that I can apply is based on the first basic rule can be one of these. The students must have to underline the words that make the first sound. Okay. For example, meat, when they have a combination words, boat, rain, and they have just to discover, for example, pie, see, so they have to analyze and understand the phonetic of or the rules for this basic vowel rule. Now, on another exercise that I apply, I put already the answers, but it goes something like this, in which they have to complete the words in blank focused on the combination and pronunciation. So, for example, if they put EA, they should have to pronounce meat, or in the number five, they have two words combination, and the sound is also E, so speed, and so forth. Now, let's focus on English consonants. The English consonants, it's important to remember for students actually to understand that some sounds are articulated based on the places of the articulation of the mouth, the lips, and everything, the voices, the vibration, the aspiration that we produce when we are speaking. So the consonants don't follow a pattern like in Spanish. For example, in Spanish, we can say just che for everything, or ñ, and those are the same sounds. Whereas in English, we have the word that, for example, the combination CH, it's machine, it makes one sound, chain makes another sound, and the CH, in this example, architect makes a k sound. It's different. And another example we have is the letter F or F sound. In English, it would be different, the consonant, but in English, we have, for example, flag, it makes an F sound, the PH makes an F sound like phone, and GH at the end makes an F sound again, enough and cough. Okay, that is why it's important to explain this in English. Now, practical exercises or how I would teach this is well, based on the exercise that I prepared, I need to explain a little bit of how we have to remember that the letter S and Z. in English are a bit different. In Spanish, it's basically the same, it doesn't change, unless it is Spanish from Spain. But for Latin American countries, the S is the same. So here in English, actually, the S is voiceless and the Z produces a vibration, okay, with the letter Z, okay? For example, zip and sip, zone and sun, buzz and bus, okay? And also this S in plural nouns is pronounced like Z after most voiced consonants and vowels. For instance, we have pen, pens, glove, gloves, tree, trees, and so on. So the exercises that I prepared for this is the following. Okay, the students will have to fill in the blanks with the correct word from the box. Okay, they have to complete from a box that I gave here. Okay, and they have to complete the words based on the in the rules. So they have to pay attention to the pronunciation of S as the. Okay, so let's suppose I say the sky is full of dark what? Shoes, cars, trees, clouds, or deserves. So they should actually emphasize and pronounce the words once they apply this exercise. Now, let's observe the word stress and meaning rules. For example, English words are divided in function, where we have some articles, conjunctions, and prepositions, and and also the content, which is loaded with the main meanings. For example, nouns, adjectives, verbs, and so on. So the rhythm in English also in stress in sentences and stress will depend on the force of the voice, according to our tutor Nesterenko. So the exercise that I put here is this. Okay, the students must listen, pronounce, and underline the stress patterns differences because the one word can be expressed in a different way based on the accent or the stress. Let's suppose I say they'll permit to be signed. The students have to recognize which words they must use. Okay, so we will address the address tomorrow. If they don't understand the correct way of pronouncing these words, their message cannot be transmitted or conveyed properly. And therefore, there will be mistakes and confusion for students or for even native speakers who receive the message. Okay, so that is important, and that's how I would be applying the exercise. Now, let's focus on intonation. So, intonation in English is actually very important because it focuses on the rhythm and the intonation. So, it depends on the way we speak. I would say this is quite similar to Spanish because the way we speak, we emphasize some words and some tones, and it makes a difference and the message is properly transmitted, no? For instance, we have enthusiasm and surprise. We can use the word I can't believe it. So, rising and dramatic tone, emphasizing believe it or not, believe it or not, no? For example, oh, I can't believe it showing enthusiasm or boredom. That can be only something like it's flat and monotone with no emphasis or emotion investment. For example, oh, I can't believe it. Okay? Or showing indifference, like, oh, I can't believe it. Depends on how we pronounce this, okay? Okay, so the exercise that I would apply for students to explain intonation, I would have students practice each sentence with different emotions. I can provide a set of sentences that I have, and I would ask the class to guess which emotion is being conveyed. And another activity that I can apply for students to emphasize this could be the pair work, in which one student has to read a sentence with a chosen motion, and the pattern responds appropriately, matching the tone. So, copying the tone that the student uses. That is how I would apply intonation for this section. Now, integrate the lesson as it was required for this activity is important to understand and why we should use it. So according to our tutor, Nestorenko, most of the popular kind of English instruction is the integrated lesson in which a teacher teaches vocabulary, grammar, and various language skills like speaking, writing, listening, and reading, and the pronunciation instruction could be integrated with instruction in each of these language skills. It means that we can easily include all the phonetic rules and all the phonology that they need to know uh, in our classes when we are teaching reading, writing, or listening. And sometimes in the high school, this has been put apart and not paid too much attention. And it is important to include when we are teaching, especially in secondary, because in some schools in the primary, they actually receive this part of training. not emphasized on some sounds, but there is more information about it in school, in primary school, rather than in the secondary school, and it is very, very interesting, this topic. Okay, thank you so much. That is the list of reference, and I would stop the recording.